Another WWE champion vacates their title and goes on hiatus. A big WWE faction is officially over as one member gives themselves Das Boot from the company. MVP triples down on how he feels about Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Could NXT stay above 700,000 viewers without the help of the main roster? And somehow, WWE ticket prices go higher, astronomically higher. We talk all about it in today's Amped Up, Thursday, the 25th of September of the year 2025. But we kick off with the big AEW announcement on Dynamite. Tony Khan with a live mic announcing new women's tag team titles. A company that is struggling to get to 750,000 in viewership. A company struggling to get to 700,000. A company that is just trying to stay above 600,000 in viewers. And their big answer is more championships. Women's tag titles. Is this best for business? Is this what the company needs right now? More titles to confuse your audience even more. Because you already have Hangman with a championship. You have Okada running around with 2 titles. I believe Kyle Fletcher is still parading around a title. You have tag titles. You even have trios titles. Stat has a strap. Monet has a belt. Monet has many belts. And now you add more tag titles, this time for the females. Now, I know usually you ask, do you even have enough females? That's not the concern with AEW. Tony Khan, even though the company is 6-7 years old, tops. It's still a fairly young company. But for some reason, Tony Khan has about 175 talents. He has 175 talent contracts. No joke. That's the real deal, Holyfield. You know BC does his research. You know BC does his due diligence for my amplified unit. Guys, no joke. There's about 135 talent contracts under Tony Khan for the dudes. 135 for the dudes alone. Why do you need 135 dudes across 2 shows? Now you can add in ROH as well. But even then, you wouldn't need 135 dudes. That's not even including the women. Then you add in another near 40 ladies. 40 female contracts. You put 135 with 40, and my Steiner math, if it is correct, is about a 175. There's no need for that. I don't even think WWE has 175. They might have 100, 125 tops. 175? I don't care if you have 10 shows, 4 promotions, 5 brands, 175 contracts. What? And you're not even going to believe some of these names. Some of these names you haven't seen since 1925, since dinosaurs roamed the earth. The Big Show, well, is collecting money. I don't know why. The Big Show's collecting money. I forgot about the Big Show, just like Danhausen. Does anybody remember a Danhausen? Apparently, he's collecting money from AEW. And there's many others that you have not heard from, seen. You have no idea why they're collecting money. Now, in WWE, there's a couple to tree, right? Omos. There's Tamina Snuka. who you haven't seen since, 1986, 1987? And for the ladies, again, nearly 40 contracts. And some of these are like Karen Angle or Karen Jarrett. My bad. I don't know who she's sleeping with these days. Karen Jarrett. Karen! When's the last time you saw Karen? How much is Karen doing? Why is Karen collecting an AEW check? But I think they add in Renee as well as talent. I understand that. Renee's phenomenal. She absolutely should be getting a talent contract because she's a big part of these shows, but she's not going to be going for championships. You guys know that. And again, you have some ROH talent as well. I don't know if all of them will be going for these titles, but you could take a good 5, 6, 7 names that are not going to be competing or going for titles that are actually getting talent contracts. So that brings the women's roster to about, 30 to 35 females that will actually be going for the titles. And a lot of them you just haven't seen, like Nyla Rose and many others. They're just names that, are they even going to be on TV? So I think when you take out all the fluff, you got about 30 talents. When you take out all the fluff, you got about 30 females competing. Across the Collisions, the Dynamites, the ROHs, you got about 30. Okay, you got your 2 top titles that everybody should be vying for. So what does that leave for the tag team? Are you going to have 5 or 6 tag teams? Okay, because that's 12. If you have 6, there's 12 females right there. That's just going to be vying for the tag team titles. So what you're telling me is nonstop, the tag team participants will always be going for singles titles as well. I just don't know why this is what was being talked about. Why this had to be a thing. More titles that wrestlers are competing for is not the issue. We don't need more titles. We need good storylines. I say it all the time. Growing up, the title didn't have to be on everybody to get us invested, intrigued, and captivated. The Big Boss Man was one of my favorite wrestlers back in the day, in the golden era. He never held the world title. I don't even think he held the IC title. Maybe once for a cup of coffee, a sip of coffee, but I don't recall. I really don't, guys. I really don't recall Big Boss Man holding titles. Maybe an IC for a day. Definitely not the world title. Roddy Piper never held a world title. Mr. Perfect, I don't believe, held a world title. Some of my favorite, Bad News Brown, Tito Santana, or the El Matador, whichever character you want to come up with. The Mountie. Tatanka. I don't care. Crush. They never held world titles. Or very many titles at all. You didn't need it. A lot of them were involved in so many really good storylines that I remember. So just come up with the good storylines, man. If they never win a championship, it's okay. We're in an era in pro wrestling where everybody has to get a title. It's a merry-go-round. And the fans need to see everybody touch the title, right? You could be there for just a couple, 2, 3 months. You could be in the organization for a cup of coffee. And if you get a title, the fans will chant, "You deserve it. You deserve." Come on, guys. Come on, Section 305. You deserve it. Stephanie V. Okay, we like Stephanie V. She's a good wrestler. She was in NXT for a cup of coffee. They catapulted her to the main roster. And in just a few months, she's already got a world championship, a women's championship. Naomi's vacated title. Just a few months. And the crowd is trying to get a "You deserve it" chant going this past Monday. What the hell do you mean? Because she worked hard through her career? I don't I made this joke, but it's really not a joke on the Monday Night Raw review recently. I said if Maxine Dupri gets a championship in the near future, I am pretty sure the crowd is going to chant, "You deserve it." Maxine Dupri deserves it. Because she's gotten a little better. She's working hard, basically. She's getting a little better. Is she? Did she work hard? Well, BC, she's been there for a while. Oh, well then, damn, why didn't you say so? Throw every title on her. Why isn't the men's world title on Maxine if she's been there for a while and she's working hard? I thought all the wrestlers were working hard, but maybe not. For some reason, today's fans, they just feel like everybody has to hold a title if they've been there for a while. Or if they're a good wrestler, they have to get the title. Why hasn't Wrestler X gotten the championship yet? Oh, I don't know. They've only been there for 9 months. And I don't care if they've been there for 20 years. That doesn't mean you throw a title on them. So now more titles in AEW. It's a problem in WWE as well. We're going to go over a championship I've never even heard of. That's in another story coming up on today's episode, by the way. A vacated championship that I've never even heard of. I didn't know it was a thing in WWE. That's how many titles there are. I don't even know what half the titles are anymore. And you want the amplified truth, as I always dish out to my unit? Check this out. I always have to remind myself who's the champions. This is what I mean about confusing your audience. I'd like to think I keep up pretty damn good on all these companies. Wednesday nights for Dynamite, NXT on Tuesday nights, it's a little bit harder. A lot of business for some reason, middle of the week especially. But I always try to keep up, so I like to think I'm always up to date. I'm keeping up, I'm doing my due diligence, but I gotta stop and think, who's the champion of all these titles? I always have to do that constantly. And on a lot of them, I forget. Sometimes I have to check it up. Especially in WWE, you'll have a title and then you just sit at catering for months. We talk tag titles. I'm in Judgment Day, New Day, Viking Experience. Every time they hold tag gold, they're just told to sit at catering until you drop the titles. I have to remind myself who the champions even are. In AEW, it's getting to that point, man. They had to start consolidating titles. Okada had to unify championships. So now tag titles for the ladies are coming in. And I know, the ladies, they deserve it, basically. It's needed, basically. There needs to be more titles for these ladies to go for. Does there have to be? Do you really need to see Anna Jay and Penelope Ford going for the tag titles? You could have a little bit of, I mean, if like a Megan Bain and Marina Shafir form this badass unit, okay, you could do some cool shit. And that's what we're going to be hoping for. I mean, I'm just thinking about the roster top of my dome piece. You know, Marina Shafir and a Megan Bain. Like that's what I would want to see. Like a badass division, badass matchups that we actually care about. But you have to attach storyline with it. And that's something that lacks in pro wrestling, man. For singles competitors, one-on-one, these companies can't come up with fun stories. So sure enough, when there's 4 individuals involved, what are you going to do? We have to keep track of all these. There's trios championships. Trios. Now, I can't stand 6-man tags anyway. I call them schmaz matches. Too much to keep track of. Everybody's running around like a ping pong ball, bouncing all around, trying to get their spots in. 6 individuals. So let's come up with trios titles. Let's have a whole division of trios. And how many really is there? How many trios factions are there? Actually, don't answer. There's probably 20. In AEW especially, everybody's got a posse. Everybody's got a unit. So you could come up with 3. More titles. There's going to be a lot of fans that are definitely down with this decision, and they love it. Listen, the titles are beautiful, by the way. The titles are beautiful. Those tag titles, I feel, are they look way sexier than WWE's women tag titles by a landslide. Those tag titles look better than the WWE men's tag titles. So yeah, they're sexy. People are going to love this idea or like it. Some may love it. Some are not can't stand it. I'm in that category. I don't think that's what's needed right now. Too many titles to keep track of. And you're trying to stay afloat of 600,000 viewership, right? Their average used to be 950, guys. 950. Remember, we were all like, oh man, 40, 50,000 more. You're right there at 1 million. And every week we were like, oh, was that enough? Was that enough? And all of a sudden they started going backwards. 950 went to 9, then 850, then 8, then 750, then 7, then 650, then 6, then 550, then 5, then 475. Now with Max, right, we add that 40,000 on top of the number, and they're right around that 600,000 usually now. But where did 350,000 viewers go in a year and a half? 350K! And more titles is your answer? You're trying to establish an audience. Don't confuse them anymore. Between both of these companies, nonstop, we're just getting title matches randomly, left and right, and the title's on the line here, and the title's on the line there. And they just get devalued because there's so many. And then these promoters don't know how to promote the titles or the title matches, so they get devalued even more. Case in point, WWE, especially when you have a 5-match format on your PLEs, so you're making your audience pay triple, but Hunter Hearst Helmsley is giving you 5 matches on a PLE. Well, that's a problem because you have about 16 champions. So then titles are not even, they're not even being defended on the pay-per-views or the PLEs. They're being defended on random SmackDowns, random Raws, or just not being defended at all. And listen, I digress too, because this was actually I felt another good Dynamite. It just lacks that special feel. It lacks a certain pulse and an energy. I can't describe it. I can't put my finger on it. But for all intents and purposes, for what it was a decent to even good show, I feel. The character development was on point. Darby walking around at the end of the show with his damn flamethrower. Did they lean on that a little too much? It went on for like 4 minutes of him just playing with his fire. I think we could have gotten that done in about 90 seconds. Fade to black and take off. Because all it was Darby playing with his flamethrower and backing off Mox and company. But I still like it. I mean, when you think character development, I mean, the flamethrower with Darby? That's always badass. And Mox still wants to go toward him, but all of a sudden it's aimed right at Mox, and the fire intensifies, so they have to back up and go through the crowd. But Mox is like, oh, you just wait. I like that. Again, we went a little too long on it. It seemed like it went 4 minutes. But Darby and the flamethrower, little things like that are not so little, man. Those are not minor details. Those are huge. Orange Cassidy coming back with a pretty grand entrance, ruining Callis's painting and using that as part of his entrance. I thought that was a pretty cool return. Helps with that character work and that character development. You know, these are unique things that you're doing. And it's simple, right? Willow's out there. Willow's out there smacking the taste out of Stokely's mouth. After FTR gives their half-ass apology to Beth Phoenix, Willow was pretty amplified last night. Stats out there clotheslining Wheeler Utah and giving the double fingers to Mox. I will have no association with you. Statlander keeps building her character development. And I could go on. That wasn't the problem. It's just this certain energy is lacking. And it's not just because they're in smaller venues, because we've seen small venues be absolutely amplified. But the presentation, something about a Dynamite where it doesn't feel like it's just energetic. It doesn't feel amplified. It doesn't feel like there's a pulse to it. And that's why an audience doesn't feel like they need to tune in. And when the show goes off the air, you can say, that was decent. Or you could even say, that was a good show. But you don't need to tune in next week. And that's what you're seeing in the numbers, right? That's not just BC giving you his thought or opinion. I'm giving you a factual statement because the numbers back it up. So that's why AEW is kind of weird. Because it's actually a decent show most weeks. And many things even good. But the feeling is lacking. And I really feel they're just 1 to 2 epic storylines. Not good, not even great. I'm talking epic storylines. You're never going to be able to recreate Vince McMahon and Stone Cold's story, Stone Cold and the Authority. You're never going to be able to create the NWO and Sting versus the NW. But what do those things have in common? They both, for their respected companies, catapulted them to new heights. WWE needed that Stone Cold Authority storyline. Mr. McMahon and Steve Austin, they needed that because they were in dire straits when WCW was whooping that ass. And WCW really needed to be the king of it all over WWF. So they needed that NWO storyline. I don't feel AEW has had that signature storyline yet. That one that is going to put them on the map and make people tune in, not just say, oh, I want to, or I have the time to. No, I need to. We used to call that appointment television. It's when you just literally put that into your schedule. You could not miss it. AEW is one signature story. It'd be nice if they had a couple. But one signature storyline to give a heartbeat to the show itself. That's what they're missing. You can add all the titles you want. These are Band-Aids. Eventually, you do away with the Band-Aids and you just fix the issue, fix the problem. And it's not an easy fix. If it was, I'm sure they would already be doing it. If it was an easy thing to do, WWE would have had a plethora of signature storylines. WCW would still be in business. It's not easy to do. It has to be the perfect mixture. It has to be lightning in a bottle. It has to be pure and sheer magic. Everything has to align. All the stars have to align. Right? Everything just it has to be the perfect storm in your favor. It's hard, but that's what AEW has to have. That one signature story. And eventually I do feel they're going to have it. That's the fun part. Who's going to be the participants? Sometimes you organically fall into it, and it's not who the company wanted to push in that spot, but it just happens organically. So it'll be interesting, but they're not there right now. I see so much good in character development, and I see that they're putting thought here and there. But when the show goes off the air, I just feel like, just like the live crowd, listen to the live crowd, right? It's missing that amplification. Meanwhile, WWE their crowds make a lot of noise. A lot of it is the damn kids and the parents that they dragged out to these shows that paid the thousands of dollars. So they're just showing up to sing, dance, yeet, do all the chants. Meanwhile, none of it even makes sense. You're 60 seconds into a match and you start to hear, "This is awesome!" What's awesome? The match has been going on for 60 seconds. You saw 2 super kicks, a clothesline, a body slam, a poke to the eyes, and the heel ran around the ring 4 times. But that's awesome! So that is my thoughts on the new tag team titles for the ladies over in AEW and my thoughts in totality of AEW Dynamite. What it is lacking and how it needs to be corrected. And if it does, I really feel AEW will be in good shape. But it has a lot to improve on. Now, for this next story, this was not going to be our second story, but because I just mentioned WWE's ticket prices toward the tail end of our first story, I figure we can rock this out real quick right now. And this is the new highest ticket prices of all time for a pro wrestling event, WrestleMania. If you're planning on attending, these will be the highest ticket prices we have ever seen in our lifetimes. A lot of you guys probably thought we were joking when we said tickets are going to cost you thousands of dollars these days to attend a WWE show. Thousands with an S, not 1,000. Thousands. Guys, if you want to show up to WrestleMania, You will be paying, if you want to be like toward the front row or front row, you are paying $40,000 to show up to WrestleMania. $40,000. Do you guys just have $40,000 laying around? A lot of you guys probably have credit cards that don't even have limits of $40,000. You probably have $10,000 or $20,000. So you'd have to max that out and then use a few others. $40,000 to show up to WrestleMania to watch Hunter Hearst Helmsley give you 5 or 6 matches a night. To watch Travis Scott. Travis Scott will be the finale, just like last year. Could you imagine last year paying all that money and Travis Scott ends the weekend? $40,000. Now, if you're thinking, well, BC, I could still show. I'll just be like, BC, I'll go all the way to the last section. I'll go way up top, BC. I'll be one of the last rows. Yeah, I'll give WWE $80. I'll give them $100. That's a little outrageous. $100 for one of the last rows, but whatever. No, you ain't. If you want to go to one of the last shows way up at the top, the nosebleeds, like the top of the nosebleeds, you're still paying over $1,000. You could go on a little vacation for $1,000, at least for a few days. Over $1,000 to be at the top of the stadium. And then you have to spend a few extra $100 on the binoculars just to see the wrestlers, which are going to look like ants down below. So you're really going to have to watch the big Tron up above. Right? That's what everybody in the nosebleeds does. They just watch the big giant TVs that hang up on above the rafters. That's all they do. So you're basically paying $1,000 to watch a jumbo TV. So you could have saved $1,000 or bought a nice vacation and just watched it on your big screen at home. $40,000 plus up front. And that's not including their top tier packages too, by the way. Where, you can meet a superstar, meet them and get their autograph and take a picture and go to a side entrance, right? That's what they always say. Go to a special VIP side entrance into the building. Who cares? I'd rather just go through the main entrance with all the other fans to feel the, quote, excitement. I don't want to go through a weird side entrance. Or you get to go to a party beforehand where a wrestler will show up and say hi to everybody. Wow, now that's $70,000. That's a real thing. $70,000 to get their ultimate package. And then if you want to be up in the nosebleeds, way up high, the last rows, you're still giving them over $1,000 of your money. That's wild. That is stupid. That's outrageous. I can't believe that's a thing. WWE should be ashamed of themselves, and Ticketmaster should be ashamed that they're allowing it under the guise of market value. That's what they use, right? Well, we would do something, but that's what the market is calling for. It's BS. And if you guys need any more proof, we went over it last week. WWE TKO's COO, Mark Shapiro, admitted that it's TKO setting the prices. It's not Ticketmaster. In fact, the COO, Mark Shapiro, said that Vince McMahon priced for families. In other words, Vince McMahon priced his tickets so that everybody could afford it to show up. He said Vince McMahon was not maximizing the potential. What he is telling you is that Vince priced his tickets so that everybody could afford them. TKO is pricing people out because he knows people will pay 20, 30, 40, 50 times what they're asking for. So we'll price out everybody else and we'll just bring in everybody willing to pay 40 times the amount. And it works for a while, right? Disney's priced people out for years. Eventually, I told you guys, that's going to catch up. It already is. Attendance is starting to take a hit. And for WWE, it's eventually going to catch up to them But they're doing what in business is called pricing people out, pricing individuals, pricing families, pricing certain demographics out because they know other demographics, others will pick up that slack. So that's what he means by maximizing the potential and the value of every ticket. So TKO is setting that. So he kind of muffed up what they've been saying, right? Their excuse. Oh, market value. BS. Everybody should be ashamed, man. $40,000 up front, $70,000 for their packages, $1,000 to be in the nosebleeds. Let's move on. This next story is wild, man. So you have another WWE Championship vacated. And for the same reason the last one was in WWE. Naomi vacated her women's championship due to pregnancy. And now you have the WWE ID Women's Championship now vacated. Kylie Ray gave up the title after announcing her pregnancy. Another pregnancy. So I guess you could say business was wide open this summer. Man, everybody was putting in the work this summer. Kylie Ray, pregnant. And I do have to ask, what in the spectrum of donkey sauce is a WWE ID Championship? And I truly mean that. I didn't know that was a thing. I know the ID program a few months ago started, and that's where WWE is going to all these wrestling schools and stamping their logo on it. And I can't stand that because that's called monopolizing in business, and monopolizing is never good for anybody. They're monopolizing. When you go to all the schools and you put your ID, your logo on it, they now conform to how you want them to do business, your structure. That's never good, especially in a creative industry. You're right, because part of what made Attitude Era and the Golden Age and even Ruthless Aggression so special is you had all these unique individuals with unique personalities and charisma. Nowadays, under Hunter Hearst Helmsley's WWE, everybody has to be the same, carbon copy. It's like a distribution assembly center, right? It's like an Amazon distribution center where you have the big assembly line and every box looks the same coming off the line. That's every wrestler. And they all go to promo classes and they all take the same bumps and they all do the same things and the same drills and they talk the same. And now Helmsley's making an even bigger, better performance center, he says, down in Orlando, where everybody's going to be even more the same. And now, by monopolizing all the schools and putting their ID logo on it, well, now the trainers now have to conform to WWE standards. That's how this starts, and that's what the end goal is, guys. WWE just doesn't want their logo there. They want them to start then to learn the, quote, WWE way. That's not good in a creative industry, especially pro wrestling. So no, monopolizing in pro wrestling, not good. You saw when Vince McMahon bought WCW, and quickly, business started to, suck. It's never good, man. So you have all these ID schools. And it's also not good because those schools that are not part of the ID program are going to be looked over. Nobody's going to want to go to those schools. Oh, that's not a WWE school. So then really good schools that really practice and applaud individuality, they get overlooked. Nothing good comes from monopolizing, especially schools. So I didn't even know there was an ID championship. And at first glance, I was like, wait, Kylie Ray was the champion and then she had isn't that Alba Fire? I literally was like, wait, Kylie Ray, that's Alba Fire. Why are they not calling her Alba Fire? And why is she in the ID program and why is she a champion? I had to do a triple take and there's a different Kylie Ray. They have a different spelling. This is, I believe, Kylie-Rey. And I think Kaylee Ray is Kay space, maybe Lee. I don't know. It's two different Kaylee Rays. Kaylee Ray, Kylie Ray. Anyway, I thought I'd mention that because I'm sure a lot of you guys are like, wait, wasn't Kylie Ray? Yes. Different spelling, different person. But going back to the main fact, I did not know that was a real thing. I didn't know that was a real championship. And apparently it's already vacated. So this is a good time for WWE to, I don't know, just burn the title in the dumpster. And speaking of, let's stick with the ladies here. This next story is wild because I was just really starting to get into this individual too, Jasmine Nix. But the Fatal Influence, a massive faction in WWE. It happens to be in their NXT brand. They were called Fatal Influence, and it was Fallon Henley. What's her name? And now I'm drawing up. Who was it? She's the champion, or at least was. JC Jane and Jasmine Nix, and they formed Fatal Influence. Well, that group is officially over. Jasmine Nix is leaving WWE. There was an attack this past Tuesday night. A masked wrestler, masked assailant, took out Jasmine Nix, and Henley and JC were like, it's better off anyway without her. It was so weird. And all of a sudden, that's it. Then we find out that WWE has parted ways with Jasmine Nix, but then we found out through Nix's own words that it's her decision to leave WWE. They offered her a new 3-year deal, and Jasmine Nix turned it down. And the reason, she said, she just didn't see that it was financially feasible. So what she's telling you is they didn't offer her enough money. She probably saw no increase. And I understand she's had a lot of injuries. In fact, in her response, she actually listed a bunch of them. She had like a broken nose, her knees were messed up. She was out of action several times. She's had a lot of injuries thus far. And when you think some of the best pound-for-pound talent that are going to go 20, 25 minutes in an epic classic, you're probably not putting Jasmine Nix in that category, and I understand that. In fact, until just recently, I kind of overlooked Jasmine Nix, but in this faction, I really started to feel like she was coming into her own. I thought that she was finally starting to hit her stride. And then you had JC just recently win the championship, so I'm thinking, okay, Fatal Influence, they got something big going on here. Were they going to reach heights like Toxic Attraction? Maybe not, but I started to feel for the first time recently that they could be in that category. Because I always felt Fatal Influence was just a bootleg Toxic Attraction. I finally started to feel like they were coming into their own. And now Jasmine Nix is gone and the group is officially over. So we wish her all the best. But she turned down her deal. Apparently WWE was just not that high on her. They probably were in flux, didn't know what to really do with her, didn't want to break up Fatal Influence necessarily. So they just offered her the same deal she was on, not thinking she would turn it down. Let's move on. Let's talk. Real quick. Let's stick with NXT. I got their number this week. This was good. Everybody was kind of eyeing this because last week they had their big homecoming show, and it was just a lot of main roster talent, and a lot of people panned it because they didn't even hit $750,000. They hit 735, I believe. No, 728. My bad. 728,000 last week for homecoming. Hunter Hearst Helmsley was on the show heavily. He started the show with a segment with Shawn Michaels. Of course, you have to have Hunter Hearst Helmsley on the show, but he could not pop a rating. So they only pulled 728. So a lot of fans were interested to see if they could even hold on to 700 without the main roster this week. The answer to that was no. They actually lost 53,000 viewers and they went down to 675K. So again, NXT went from 728 with homecoming and all the main roster talent to 675. A 53K loss without the main roster. So NXT took a big hit. We're still waiting on word of what AEW's number is, but you can add usually it's about 40,000 extra on top of whatever AEW Dynamite is going to pull in. You can add another 40,000 from Max. Now, you're going to hear in the community, people always like, oh, no, it's 150. It's 200. It's 300,000 more viewers, basically, watching on Max. That is not the case. There's no evidence to back up anything of such. The most realistic number that any numbers person has come up with, including BC, is approximately 40. And guys, that could be as low as 25. I'm not even giving you 45. I'm actually at the high end. I'm giving you the highest. So usually if AEW is around 600, you could add another 40,000 on top of that. Now, yes, if AEW pulls like 700,000 up front, then you could start to talk about 50 to 60. Then you up it. But the most realistic number we have is 40. And I the numbers I hear thrown around are outrageous. Basically, they pulled 600,000 on TNT TBS, but they pulled 350,000 on Max. Meanwhile, Max is like, we didn't even have that many people watching at that time. On Max up front, we didn't even have 350,000 across everything on Max. So anyway, NXT, man, going back down to 675, AEW has a chance to either match them or top them. Now, the question is, were they able to eclipse 600,000 this week? That's what we'll be keeping our eye on. All right, let's check this one out, man. This is a good story. You guys are ready for this? MVP. I always love this because MVP is not shy about his feelings on Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque, McMahon. So MVP, I think this was, I want to say Sports Illustrated. I know it was a major publication that he said this on. I want to say Sports Illustrated, who I don't know if you guys know, but Sports Illustrated is saying that Becky Lynch is the greatest of all time. Sports Illustrated did say that. So just thought that was an interesting tidbit as well. But MVP on Helmsley, this is a quote. I have zero respect for him, personally or professionally, end quote. And MVP said he can't wait to expand on that. So I can't wait till MVP just does a tell-all, because I really want to hear some just sincere stories that he has backstage, because I think it's really going to be eye-opening for the, quote, WWE universe, which Helmsley still calls it. Remember when Vince took off, everybody was like, oh, thank goodness we can stop calling it. Now, Helmsley still calls it that. WWE talent is still supposed to call it that, or at least the top stars. If you ever hear John Cena, Cody Rhodes, they still call them that. So I want that same WWE, quote, universe that blows smoke up Hunter Hearst Helmsley's ass constantly to finally have that eye-opening moment. To truly now understand how Helmsley truly is. All those fans that sit in front of Hunter Hearst Helmsley's kitchen while he's serving up the bullshit stew with their wooden bowls and wooden spoons going, please, sir, can I have some more? And Helmsley's got that shit-eating grin on his face. Of course you can. I want them to finally see how this dude truly conducts business and what he truly feels about fans. He cannot stand the fans. For years and years, he's been telling you that, inside the ring and out. He used to cut promos, but basically that was in character. Come on, that was Paul Levesque, McMahon, talking about how Mark is not happy with the product and isn't that tough shit? Isn't that too bad? Mark doesn't like the product. Mocking fans that had genuine concerns about the product. Love WWE, but they have to do better. So fans of anything, if something is lacking, is going to give that constructive criticism. And he mocked them in the ring. So here we are all of these years later, and now he's the guy in charge because he slept his way to the top. Literally! Married the boss's daughter, put his big schnoz up the boss's ass, Vincent Kennedy, and then married the boss after he took the superstar that was in the storyline with Stephanie. That's a real fact. He told Vince to take Test out of the story with Steph so that he could go into the story with Steph, put the moves on Steph, and then marry Steph. While he was with China, by the way. It just gets better and better with this guy. So this dude's over here now as the boss. And when the fans once again have a genuine concern of where the product is going and they're not happy with it, they still love WWE, but they know it should be and could be better, so they're just saying that. And what does Helmsley say as the boss? He's no longer just a talent in the ring mocking the fans anymore. Now he's the boss. And he tells the fans, if you're critiquing the product and you don't like it, you're not real fans. And he literally says, and I quote, you can fuck off. These are quotes. And he said it many times this year. Not just once or twice like he was having a bad day. Many times he told the fans to fuck off in many ways. But, quote, so yeah, it's really good when wrestlers start to call that out. Because most in that company, they're absolutely going to bite their tongue on this because he's the boss. They don't want to get on his bad side. He's playing the role of Vince McMahon now. That's right, I said playing the role of. He'll never be able to walk 2 steps in Vince McMahon's loafers. So yeah, I love when somebody has the balls to call this dude out because he is absolute garbage. I loved when Bret Hart no-sold him at his own Hall of Fame. Helmsley is inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's the headliner last year, and his wife's going to be the headliner this year. Because they're playing tag, you're it. This is all just, it's Paul's Playground era. It's Paul's Playground. That's all this is. Everybody says Tony Khan plays with action figures. That's how he runs his company. We'll keep that same energy for WW. Because Paul Levesque McMahon is just, he's just having fun, right? It's just his playground. Talk shows and media scrums and commercials and homecoming for NXT and playing Superstar, playing Vince McMahon. And when it gets too strenuous, it's vacation time. He's going into the Hall of Fame. He's trying to shake everyone, and Bret Hart just rolls his eyes. Bret Hart wasn't having it. Bret Hart's thinking, this dude, how is... It's supposed to be this new era with all of these great wrestlers, supposedly. You're now the suit and tie. You're in Gorilla. You're the head of talent and creative and content. How is this all about you still? That's what Bret Hart was thinking. I can't wait for MVP to open up on this, man. I want to hear the stories, and I want to hear MVP, and I want people to understand that people within those walls will tell you how Helmsley is. Because all you usually hear from the wrestlers in that company, because they're scared shitless of Levesque McMahon, because he's the boss, and they don't want to get on his bad side. So all you hear is how wonderful Hunter is. It's so much of a better working experience. Vince made it hostile. We were walking on eggshells with Vince. Now we can play video games and get an extra holiday off, and this is so fun. The top talent can say that, yeah. Everybody else, careful with that Stamford, Connecticut number, because you could be getting your pink slip. You could be getting Das Boot and being released. Everybody's expendable. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is a professional wrestler, and that's it. Period. That's where it ends. He is not a head of talent. He is not a chief of content and creative. Because he's not creative. And he shouldn't be managing talent. And that's probably why he doesn't do any of that. He's got the titles of chief of content and creative. He's the title of head of talent relations. But if you noticed, he's never in his office doing any of it. He's too busy playing Superstar. So put somebody in those job titles that knows how to do the damn jobs. Hunter Hearst Helmsley isn't best for business. Hunter Hearst Helmsley is worse for business. MVP, and I quote, I have zero respect for Helmsley personally or professionally. Join the club, MVP. This is about the 5th time he said that, by the way. But I just love how he wants it known, and he's not taking those words back. MVP went on to say, and I quote, "I'm the type of person that if I say something about you, I'll say something to you." That same thing. So what he's saying is, dude, I'll say this to Helmsley face to face. I don't care. I don't need his job. Because he doesn't have my respect anyway, so I don't want to work for someone I don't respect. What a concept. This has been this is awesome, amped up for Thursday, the 25th of September of the year 2025. To my amplified unit, stay smashing it out. We got SmackDown coming up over the next 24 hours. BC will be covering it, of course, and everything else, all the big stories in the pro wrestling world. This is your one-stop shop as always. Until next time, and there will be that next time, BC saying check you. To my amplified unit, salute.